We will always begin by taking 3 deep breaths. Take a deep breath in through the nose and out of the mouth. In again through the nose, out of the mouth, in, and let that go. Beautiful. So today's topic is going to be starting from the beginning, right? Like the beginning of spirituality. So if you're new on the spirituality path, this is definitely for you. But if you are a veteran to the spirituality path, sometimes it's really important for us to come back to the basics. And so that's what this is going to be about, which is the basics of having a spiritual practice, diving into spirituality. So with that being said, I want to thank the person who, I get this question often, but recently I got it from somebody who is a mother of 2, who obviously has very busy days and a lot on their plate. And so I feel like this is a great conversation to have, because people make excuses, and I have been the person to make excuses in the past in my life as well, and even sometimes in the present. There are sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, but I just have all this going on, like I can't, and it's like, no, at the times where you say to yourself, ooh, I can't fit this in, that is usually when you have to. So the basics of spirituality. If you were to be a one-on-one client of mine, the first thing I would ask you is, what is your daily practice? And I would let that question be open-ended. Now, I would love for you to sit back and think like, ooh, what are my daily habits? Because you may not call it a daily practice, but what are your daily habits? Do you listen to a podcast every time you drive to work? Do you listen to music? Do you sit in silence while you're on your commute? Do you every single day have the same routine when you wake up when it comes to washing your face, brushing your teeth, making your tea or your coffee in the morning? Like, what are your daily habits that you do? So take a moment to just like reflect on what it is that you get into in the daily. And I also want to say there are some things that we would consider, quote unquote, like as humans, we define them as not good, but like good and bad is a spectrum. In some circumstances, maybe I shouldn't say most, but in many circumstances, we put good and bad, and also good and bad is subjective. So if you're like, well, every single day I watch trash reality TV, first and foremost, I want you to know that you are loved here, because I love trash reality TV, and I am not one of those spiritual people who's like, oh, it's just like not good for you. I don't give a fuck if it's not good for me. I'm watching that shit, and I'm talking about it to my friends that are also watching it, okay? So again, we're not here to judge ourselves. We're just here to take inventory on the process. We're just here to say, okay, what are the things that I actually do? Maybe there's a cartoon that you still watch every day, or like a comfort show that before bed you watch it. So what is it that you do every day? What are your daily practices, or what are your daily habits? Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Beautiful. Now that we've gotten down our daily habits and our daily practices, if you were completely beginner, or you're a veteran that's like, yo, I gotta refine my fucking shit, what I would tell you to do, this is what I tell every single person that works one-on-one with me to do. I want you to start off with 2 minutes of meditation every single day. I want you to get your phone timer, and I want you to set it for 2 minutes, and I just want you to sit there. You don't have to close your eyes at first. You don't have to be intentionally breathing, but please be looking at something that's grounding. So look out the window, look at a piece of art. If you have an altar, look at your altar. If you're like, nothing is really grounding, look at the ceiling for 2 fucking minutes. And I just want you to feel what it feels like for 2 minutes to just be with yourself. At first, it will probably feel like a long time. You'll be like, oh shit, 2 minutes is actually kind of a hot second. But in the coming weeks, right? Like, let's say now after 2 weeks, you've been doing that 2 minutes every single day. Now we move on to, all right, maybe we make it 4 minutes. And let's do that. Because here's the thing with spirituality, whether you're new or you're a veteran, sustainability. It's accessibility and sustainability. A lot of times I see people that want to really dive deep into spirituality, which is fantastic, and I love that. But because of social media and you are listening to this on some media platform. But because of social media, more in terms of like Instagram and TikTok, we internalize, right? Or we see that people internalize, oh my God, if I really want to be like a good medicine woman, or a real practicing witch, you know, or someone who's truly devoted to my yogic practices, I have to do. And then they list off A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then maybe they do that for a month, and then after a month, they're fucking burnt out because they didn't slowly make their way there. This is all about making our practices fucking sustainable. If you are listening to this before January 4th, 2025, which is fucking nuts that it is the end of 2024. If you're listening to this before then, we have a 4-week cacao dieta. It's virtual. It's 1 week of pre-integration, 2 weeks of dieta, and 1 week of post-integration. And we so heavily hit on the fact that if our practices are not sustainable, they will not continue to stay in our life. Now, I also want to throw out of left field that your practices are probably going to change, and that's fucking okay. That's actually beautiful that your practices are changing because you are evolving as a person. Now, if you're in a female body like I am, you're gonna also have a cycle, and that cycle is going to depend on different things and different circumstances. When I am right before I bleed, and so if you are not a female, I want you in your male body to really sit back and think for a moment and really recognize, okay, what points in the month am I more energized and less energized? And think about the external circumstances that might be affecting those things as I talk about this, because this affects everybody. We all have different rhythms that happen within our body. But from my perspective, right before I get my bleed, I get a burst of energy, and I want to do the most intense workout possible, which is so crazy because the whole rest of my cycle, I am like very gentle with my body. Maybe I'll go on long walks or longer hikes, or I'll do a little bit more Pilates throughout my day. But then all of a sudden, right before I bleed, I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's get it. But then I start bleeding, and then I'm doing yin yoga. That's the that, or I'm just sitting and doing really gentle breath work, and that's the whole fucking practice. So your practice is going to change at different points. However, we can have things that are a daily practice that allow us to be intentional, that allow us to be reflective, that allow us the opportunity to sit back and go, okay, yes, I want to dive deeper into myself. So again, that's why we take those 2 minutes, because the reality is 2 minutes is not a long time. And so whether you've been doing this shit for 30 years or you've been doing this shit for 3 years, taking 2 minutes out of your day to just put a timer on and either close down your eyes or stare off into space is a beautiful thing. And I guarantee you it will be something that is sustainable, that over years you can continue to go back to, right? Because I am one of those people. I love journaling, but then there are points where I'm like, I have written every fucking thing that I can possibly write, and I have to switch up my practice, right? So like that longer practice that I add after those 2 minutes of sitting in silence, instead of it being journaling, now it's got to be coloring, or maybe I'm painting, or maybe it's dance, right? Like moving the body. I mean, we should be moving the body every single day. That is just helpful to our body and our mind overall if you can move. And movement doesn't have to necessarily be intense workout, right? Like it can just be, and this is another thing that I think is so sustainable, or that I've witnessed be sustainable for myself and for others, is when you're in the kitchen, you are either doing the dishes, cleaning up, or you're cooking. Put a song on for 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be longer than 3 minutes. And let your body, as you're doing your dishes, dance for a moment. Let yourself feel the body moving. These are sustainable practices. These are things that we can always come back to, right? And again, I don't know who you are, so I can't give you very finite practices to say, like, you know, if you do have an altar in your home, then sitting in front of your altar could be something that's also sustainable for you every single day because you have that space carved out for you. But here, you don't need an altar space. Like, you don't need an altar space in your home to be spiritual, to be doing the spiritual practices. And another thing that I also, when people are like, okay, I would like to implement an altar into my home. Okay, great. I'm going to tell you to get 2 things, and that's literally it. I am going to ask you to go outside, ask the earth to help you find a rock. You're going to find a rock. You're going to put that shit somewhere. It can be on a windowsill. It can be on a desk. Something that Dylan always, I love that he recommends this to people when they come on our retreats, is like, if you are, he uses the example of like very busy mom, and how sometimes you don't have space for yourself when you're taking care of your kids. Is there a junk drawer in your kitchen that you can actually clean the junk drawer out, and then that is actually your altar space where you just pull it out and it's just for you? So it has your rock in there, right? And then the other thing that I recommend is always get a bowl of water. The spirits of the water are so fluid, they're so forgiving, they're so gentle, they're so soft. And so having that bowl of water, you're going to have to clean that bowl of water out at least every few days. Once you see it get a little bit cloudy, you better be changing that shit out. But that is a beautiful way to start an earth-based altar, right? And the beautiful thing, and if you're like, oh, but I am religious and I like to pray to these gods, or I am not maybe religious, but I like to work with this pantheon, still doing the rock and the water, it gives you the opportunity to work with whoever the fuck you want to work with. You can work with every pantheon under the sun, right? You can work with the Hindi pantheon and you can work with the Norse pantheon. But it allows you to have a grounded essence where you come and you go, okay, now I'm going to pray to Jesus. I'm going to pray to Mother Mary. I'm going to pray to Archangel Raphael. This continues to give you that grounded space. So whether you are new on the path or you are a veteran, I would love to know how these practices either help you get back on track or start you out. Because I really want to hit on the fact that falling off of the wagon when it comes to spirituality is a normal thing that happens. But this is why we seek out community. And if you're listening to this podcast episode, obviously there's some way that you're connected with me in community, whether that's community just through media. But if you're looking for Dylan hosts an integration group on Patreon, it's $10 a month. That's it. And once you're in the Patreon, you have access to come to the Zoom every single month. That allows you to meet with like-minded people that you can just talk about what's going on in your life. Also, if you are integrating any psychedelic experiences or heavy spiritual experiences, that is also a great place because that's a no judgment zone, and that's also what Dylan's specialty is. But it gives you a space to connect with people that can also say, holy shit, I was going so good for years, and then what the fuck happened? And it threw me off. And you can just talk to people in that way. And if you're interested in being held in a really close-knit group container, that January 4th of 2025, when we start the next Cacao Dieta, that's 100% for you. And if you're looking for me to just hold you in a one-on-one container for 6 months, that's also always an option. But sometimes there's something so special about when we're either regrouping or new to the path that we have other people to look at as mirrors. I can always be that mirror for you, but finding your other mirrors is also extremely important. So let's take a deep breath in again. Breathe out. Many blessings to you and to yours.